Welcome, travelers. You've wandered into Snooze Scholar, where we don't chase perfection. We rest quietly beside it. Tonight's journey is not a lesson, but a soft reflection, a slow unfolding of an ancient idea. One that doesn't ask you to improve or fix, but to simply notice. To see the beauty in things that fade, to find peace in what is incomplete. If you enjoy sleepy stories and peaceful thoughts, feel free to subscribe and return whenever the world feels too loud. Here, we speak softly and move slower than time. There is a Japanese philosophy, older than any textbook, gentler than any rule, called Wabi-Sabi. It's not a doctrine. It doesn't belong to one thinker or one book. It's a mood, a feeling, a whispered way of seeing the world. Wabi-Sabi tells us perfection is not the goal. It never was. Because everything, every bowl, every building, every person, is cracked, fading, changing. And that's not a flaw, it's the point. Tonight, we sit beside broken pottery. We listen to the silence of empty rooms. We watch autumn leaves fall and find meaning in their letting go. Wabi-Sabi is a philosophy for rainy days, for soft light, for old hands and slow mornings. It reminds us that we don't need to be flawless. We don't need to last forever. We just need to be as we are in this moment. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders soften. And come with me now into a world where nothing lasts, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect. Because sometimes that's where the beauty lives. Wabi-Sabi, 2 syllables spoken like a sigh. They sound simple, almost empty, but within them is an entire world. Let's begin with Wabi. Wabi is the gentle hum of solitude, the feeling of being alone, but not lonely. It's the quiet satisfaction of brewing tea in an old kettle, or watching raindrops trace paths down a window. Originally, centuries ago, Wabi had a negative tone. It meant the sadness of being isolated, of living far from society, of missing out on wealth and comfort. But over time, the meaning shifted, softened. Wabi became a kind of spiritual elegance, a choice to embrace the small, the humble, the simple. Wabi is the moss-covered stone beside the path, the chipped cup you've used for years, the joy of doing nothing at all. It whispers, you don't need more, you don't need better. There is richness in stillness. There is grace in restraint. Now, let's turn to Sabi. Sabi is the beauty of time's passing, the quiet dignity of age. Where Wabi is inward, a personal, emotional simplicity. Sabi is outward, visual, tactile. You can see Sabi on the surface of things. You find it in the worn edges of a favorite book, in rusted metal, in the fading lines of an old photograph. Sabi says, nothing lasts forever. But in that impermanence, there is a kind of aching beauty. To see sabi is to appreciate the crack in the ceramic, not despite the damage, but because of it. It's the golden repair lines in a bowl mended with kintsugi, a technique where broken pottery is rejoined using lacquer and gold dust. The cracks are not hidden, they're honored. The break becomes part of the story. Together, wabi and sabi form a way of seeing, not through the lens of youth and perfection, but through the gentle eyes of time. They ask us to let go of the polished, the mass-produced, the flawless, and to instead hold close the quiet, the handmade, the irregular. There's no exact translation. You can't pin wabi-sabi down with one definition. It's more like a feeling in the chest, a sigh you didn't know you were holding. It's walking into a room filled with warm light and empty space, and feeling like that's enough. It's silence that doesn't need to be filled. It's beauty that doesn't ask for attention. It's life, not as it should be, but as it is. To understand wabi-sabi, you don't need to read philosophy books or sit in a temple. You simply need to sit quietly with a single object in a quiet space and look at it differently. Let's begin with something small. A tea bowl, not a gleaming factory-made cup. Not something flawless or expensive, but a handmade vessel, rough to the touch with a glaze that has pooled in uneven waves. Maybe there's a crack, a soft fracture from years of use, or a place where the clay thinned too much and the fire kissed it too deeply in the kiln. But still, it holds warmth. Still, it welcomes your hands. Still, it belongs. This is where wabi-sabi lives, in the imperfections that tell stories, in the ware that speaks of presence, in the bowl that isn't just a container, but a companion through mornings and memories. In the Japanese tea ceremony, wabi-sabi is not spoken aloud. It is practiced through silence, through slow, deliberate movement. Each step dash, from scooping the tea powder to whisking it into a soft, frothy swirl, is performed as if time has melted away. The tea is not just a drink. It is an experience of being here, of noticing the subtle sound, of water poured into porcelain, the scent of tatami mats in a quiet room, the way the sunlight rests on a crack in the floor. Wabi-sabi teaches us to reawaken to these things, to pay attention not with urgency, but with gentle reverence. Now let us step outside into a garden, not a perfect lawn, trimmed and measured, but a place with uneven stones, moss growing between the cracks, leaves falling slowly and staying where they land. In the traditional Japanese garden, nothing is forced to grow straight. The trees bend with the wind. The paths meander. There is space for emptiness. Areas left blank to invite the imagination. A single stone placed with quiet care can hold the weight of a mountain. A crooked pine tree, older than the gardener who shaped it, becomes a kind of living wisdom. Here, Wabi-Sabi becomes landscape, a slow breathing of earth, an acceptance that nature is not neat, but true. Even decay has its place. The weathered wood of a temple gate, the dull shimmer of copper turned green with age, the corners of a roof softened by 100 seasons of rain. In the Western world, these things might be replaced, repainted, erased. But in the Wabi-Sabi worldview, they are honored, because they speak of time, of use, of life, just like the lines on a face or the creases in a handwritten letter. The flaws become the most beautiful parts. Wabi-Sabi is not only about objects. It's about how we live. It's making peace with the dust that settles, the dishes that don't match, the days that don't go as planned. It's wearing clothes until they fade, using things until they show their history, and accepting the soft sadness that comes. With letting go, it doesn't preach minimalism, but it reminds us enough is a blessing. Emptiness is a form of fullness. And imperfection is not the opposite of beauty. It is its foundation. Somewhere in a quiet workshop in old Kyoto, a potter kneels beside a broken bowl. Its pieces are scattered like fallen leaves, not shattered beyond recognition, but visibly, deeply cracked. He doesn't sweep them away. He doesn't sigh in frustration. He gathers them gently, as one might collect the bones of a memory, and begins the work of kintsugi. Kintsugi, written with the characters for gold, jin, and repair, chi, is more than a technique. It's a philosophy of healing, instead of disguising the damage. Kintsugi honors it. Each fracture is traced not with glue or paint, but with lacquer dusted in gold. Where the bowl once broke, a delicate vein of gold now runs, shimmering softly like sunlight through a curtain. The break becomes a part of the story, a visible reminder that even in brokenness, there is beauty. Not despite the cracks, but because of them. This is the soul of Wabi-Sabi wrapped in a single object. Life will break us, sometimes sharply, sometimes quietly, like a slow pressure building over years. But kintsugi offers a new kind of hope, not the fantasy of being untouched, but the promise that what is mended can be more beautiful than what was whole. Kintsugi emerged during the 15th century when a shogun broke a prized tea bowl and sent it to China for repair. It came back held together with ugly metal staples, functional but harsh. The shogun was disappointed. He expected restoration, but what he received looked wounded, mechanical, unloved. So Japanese craftsmen tried something different. They chose to celebrate the damage, to reveal it lovingly, to make it shine. And so the art of kintsugi was born, a craft that transformed scars into gold. Today, kintsugi has become more than a physical practice. It's a metaphor, a quiet way of thinking about pain, healing, and time. We all carry cracks. From losses, failures, aging, regrets. But what if those fractures weren't flaws to be hidden, but the very lines that define us? What if our lives, like that tea bowl, become more meaningful when we stop pretending we've never been broken? Kintsugi reminds us that repair is sacred, that putting something back together is not the same as hiding that it was ever hurt. In fact, the golden lines make the bowl more valuable, not because it's rare, but because it has been through something and emerged with character, history, and grace. It has endured, and now it glows. So next time you notice a crack, in a plate, in a person, in yourself, pause and remember the potter with his gold-dusted brush, how carefully he worked, how slowly he filled each gap, not to return the object to what it was, but to elevate it into something new. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a tree in late October. Its leaves are golden, trembling in the wind. Some have already fallen, others are just about to let go. Suspended in that last quiet moment between clinging and release. This is impermanence, the slow drift of all things toward change. And in the world of Wabi-Sabi, it is not something to fear, it is something to cherish. In Japanese, the word is mujo, no jo. The gentle truth that everything, no matter how strong or beautiful, is always in the process of becoming something else. The flower blooms, then wilts. The snow falls, then melts. The voice of someone you love fades into memory. But none of this is tragic in the Wabi-Sabi view. It is what gives life meaning. It is what turns a passing moment into a treasure. Because if nothing lasted forever, then everything, even the smallest detail, becomes sacred simply because it won't last. Impermanence teaches us to pay attention, to notice the chipped paint on a wooden windowsill, the sound of rain tapping once and then gone, the way a candle flickers right before it goes out. These are not signs of decay. They are the signatures of life itself. Wabi-Sabi tells us, don't resist the seasons. Don't mourn the changes before they happen. Instead, observe them, love them, and then let them pass. This is not always easy. We live in a world that clings to youth, to status, to permanence. We are taught to preserve, to polish, to protect. But Wabi-Sabi offers a softer path. It says you can let go. You can stop chasing forever. And in doing so, you'll find peace in the moment, which is all we ever really have. In traditional tea ceremonies, even the silence between gestures is considered part of the experience, a quiet acknowledgement. That presence is fleeting. The steam from the teacup, the scent of tatami mats, the way light shifts ever so slightly. Across the rim of a bowl, all of it will pass. But while it's here, it matters. Wabi-Sabi invites us to live this way. Gently, attentively, gratefully, even when something ends. A friendship, a season, a chapter of your life. It's not broken, it's complete. Just as the sunset does not mourn the loss of day, but becomes its own beauty. And so we learn slowly that letting go is not the same as losing. It is an act of trust in the rhythm of the world. So breathe softly, feel the air come in, and then go. Like everything else, it won't stay. But that's what makes it precious. You are part of this impermanence, and that is something to honor. Imagine walking into a room and nothing shouts for your attention. There are no blinking lights, no crowded shelves, no noise of color or clutter. Just a tatami mat, a single low table, one ceramic vase, unglazed, with a single branch of plum blossom leaning gently to the side. The air is still, the space is quiet, and yet you feel full. This is Wabi-Sabi simplicity, not the sterile kind of minimalism, not blankness for its own sake, but a mindful simplicity. That makes room for presence. Wabi-Sabi teaches us that when we remove the unnecessary, we make space for the deeply meaningful. A single bowl made by hand can hold more beauty than a cabinet full of factory-perfect dishes. A small home, softly lit, can feel more luxurious than a mansion filled with excess. Because when there is less to take in, there is more space to notice, more room for texture, for scent, for the creak of the floor beneath your feet. Simplicity in this sense is not an aesthetic. It's a philosophy, a slow, conscious return to the essence of things. Instead of chasing what is grand, Wabi-Sabi encourages us to fall in love with what is modest. An unpolished wooden spoon, the sound of wind brushing linen curtains, the way morning light stretches across a bare wall. These aren't decorations, they are invitations. To slow down, to breathe deeper, to see again. In traditional Japanese interiors, you'll often find emptiness. Not because something is missing, but because emptiness is where you belong. The space is waiting for your presence, for your tea, for your silence. And so the empty alcove, the unadorned shelf, the plain ceramic teacup, they aren't blank. They're complete. Wabi-Sabi understands that beauty arises not from excess, but from the conversation between what is and what isn't. Even in daily life, simplicity can become a form of freedom. Wearing the same sweater each season because it feels like home. Cooking with fewer ingredients, but more attention. Spending time with people who don't need small talk to fill the silence. It's not about having nothing, it's about choosing what matters most and letting that be enough. And in that choice, to do less, to own less, to want less, you begin to discover more. More quiet, more clarity, more time, more peace. Simplicity is not poverty. It is a kind of abundance that money cannot buy. A richness of stillness, of soul, of space. So let your life be simple. Let your space breathe. Let your days move slowly. Because in doing so, you create the silence in which beauty can whisper, and sometimes a single empty bowl says more than 1,000 ornaments ever could. Time moves forward, quietly and without permission. We wake one day and notice a crease that wasn't there before, a hair turned silver, a thought that takes longer to find its way to the surface. And yet, in the world of Wabi-Sabi, this is not decline. This is becoming. In the West, aging is often seen as something to fight. We tighten skin, bleach strands, hide every mark of wear and passing. But in the Wabi-Sabi view, age is not something to conceal. It is something to celebrate. Wrinkles are not flaws. They are the soft calligraphy of experience. The face, like the tea bowl, gains beauty through its story. A weathered hand tells more truth than a polished one ever could. It has held joy, grief, books, and people who are no longer here. The lines we carry on our skin and the wear we feel in our bones. They are not signs of erosion, but the soft carvings of time, writing its poetry upon us. Wabi-Sabi whispers, you do not need to remain young, to remain beautiful. You only need to remain real. In traditional Japanese culture, there is a quiet reverence for the elderly. Not for their accomplishments alone, but for their stillness, their wisdom, their weathered softness. They move more slowly. They speak less. But when they do, it lands with weight dash, like a pebble gently placed in still water. Wabi-Sabi encourages us to become like that, to slow down not out of weakness, but out of deep attention. To live gently, not because the world demands it, but because we finally understand the value of softness. As we age, we lose many things, but we gain a kind of clarity, a peeling away of noise, a deeper appreciation. For things once overlooked, the cup of tea becomes sacred, a slow walk becomes poetry, a conversation with an old friend becomes enough. Wabi-Sabi reminds us, you are not meant to stay the same. Your body will change. Your memories will blur. Your path will wander. And all of that is not the undoing of you, but the unfolding. To age is not to wither. It is to ripen, to gain the golden seams, the softened edges, the calm that only time can teach. It is to know the storm, but no longer fear it, to have broken and mended, and now to glow quietly from within. So if you are tired of chasing youth, rest. If you are afraid of what's changing, sit with it, breathe with it. Let the world see your edges, your history, your becoming. There is no need to hide. You are more than enough, even as you weather. Especially as you weather. You don't need to live in a mountain village in Kyoto to live a wabi-sabi life. You don't need to drink tea from 500-year-old bowls or prune a moss garden by hand. Wabi-Sabi isn't about where you are. It's about how you see, how you move, how you let the world touch you. Quietly, gently, without needing to fix it. A wabi-sabi life doesn't chase perfection. It leaves room for the real. Let the dishes sit in the sink a little longer. Wear the sweater with the frayed sleeves. Write with the pen that leaks slightly, but fits your hand just right. Let your home be a little uneven. Let your morning be slow. Let your relationships be imperfect and still full of love. Wabi-sabi is not a goal, it is a practice, a soft attention to the ordinary. It lives in the way you fold your sheets, in the silence between two sentences, in the pause before you answer someone. With real presence. You carry it not in your hands, but in your breath, in your way of walking, in your way of noticing. Let it be with you when you open your windows. Let the dust dance in the sunlight, without rushing to sweep it away. Let it be with you when you eat alone. No phone, no noise. Just the quiet rhythm of your bite, the weight of the spoon, the steam rising softly into the air. Let it be with you when you forget something and forgive yourself. Let it be with you when something breaks and you decide not to throw it out, but to sit with it and maybe one day repair it. Wabi-sabi is permission to be unfinished, to not know all the answers, to be a little messy, a little late, a little lost. It doesn't ask for productivity, it asks for presence. It doesn't demand certainty, it invites surrender. So how do you carry it? You carry it like a stone in your pocket. Quiet, grounding, there, but not heavy. You carry it by loving things that no one else notices. The rough grain of your kitchen table, the sound of your loved one breathing as they sleep, the small, odd ritual you do, just to feel like yourself again. You carry it by accepting that every season brings something new. To your hands and to your heart, there is no final chapter, only a deepening. Wabi-sabi does not end with this story. It begins the next time you wake to rain on the roof, hold a chipped mug of warm tea, or watch a leaf fall without rushing to catch it. It begins every time you remember. That imperfection is not something to fix. It's something to feel. And every time you do, you're living a little more truly, a little more gently, a little more like yourself. So go softly now, not to fix or prove or perfect, but to be, to live in the moment as it is, as you are, quiet, unfinished, and completely beautiful.